Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Welcome back from Comic-Con. We're here to talk to you today about maybe the best Quentin Tarantino film there has ever been made, possibly. I don't know. Let's talk about Inglourious Basterds, guys. We'll see you in just one quick second. It's Action Movie Anatomy.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Action Movie Anatomy.
Look at that. He knows the laugh. He knows what's up. What's going on, guys? How y'all doing? Welcome back to the show. Action Movie Anatomy. Back from San Diego Comic-Con in Los Angeles. Started a little late today, guys. I apologize. Those of you that are in the chat, thank you for holding on. Thanks for hanging on. We have a great show for you today. I have a very special guest, a first-time guest on the show, Mr. Ryan Nilsen.
Yes, thank you so much. Really excited to be here talking my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie.
I love that. You have notes here written down by hand.
Ton of notes.
That's a good move. Andrew and I used to do that. No.
Yeah, I needed to do notes because this movie is just so.
There's a lot going on.
So much happening. It's so long and a lot of great moments.
So Ryan is a producer here at the Popcorn Talk Network, kind of running Popcorn Talk right now.
Yes, overseeing
right?
it.
That's kind of what you're doing. So we've been meeting and talking a lot about different ideas for the network, different ideas for the Action brand, and we had talked about bringing him onto the show, and this just happened to be perfect because it's your favorite Quentin Tarantino film.
Yes, it totally fit. I'm so honored to be here. I've been a massive fan of the show for a while, and I love producing here. So when the opportunity came, I jumped on it.
Yes.
And I'm going in like Lieutenant Aldo Raine, the Apache.
Yeah, I forgot that his name was Aldo the Apache. I had not seen this movie since 2009.
That blows me away.
Theaters, man.
This is a movie I come back to at least once every year.
Wow.
Yeah, no, this is a constant. I own this on Blu-ray. I have it on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I am constantly, this is just a repeat viewing for me for any Quentin Tarantino film. I mean, a lot of his films are so long.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big commitment. But this one, after a certain amount of time, you just have to finish it.
It's pretty rewatchable, I have to say. I found this movie to be pretty engaging. The thing that I remembered from this movie, or the things that I remembered from this movie, obviously the introduction of Christoph Waltz to American audiences. He's terrific. You remember a lot of the craziness at the end with the fantasy outcome of killing all of the Nazi regime.
Definitely a fantastical element there, changing history.
And then sort of Brad Pitt, I just remember this sort of the combination of Brad Pitt and sort of his peak moment. I think this is kind of his peak as an actor.
Peak, we'll get into that. I think what was so great about this movie is you have, like this GI Jews in a way in this movie, and also it's like the toppling of the Third Reich that's not in the history books.
Yeah, right.
Really cool to see Quentin Tarantino's take on it, and just an awesome World War II film at the same time.
Yeah. It's a really cool moment in Tarantino's career as well. We'll talk a little bit about sort of where he stood as a director at the time. But guys, if you're listening for the very first time, this is Action Movie Anatomy on the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network dedicated to talking movies, all things movie related and pop culture by the bucketful. We talk action movies on this show. We've been talking about them for years. And literally years. This is 4.5 years in.
4.5.
I can't believe we haven't covered this movie by now, to be honest.
I was shocked when you asked. I said, "Oh, you haven't covered that already."
Yeah, it's a favorite.
You've done Pulp Fiction. You've done a few others.
We've done Pulp Fiction. We've done Django. We've done Kill Bill 1.
Right.
We've never done.
I don't know if 2 qualifies.
Yeah, we haven't done Reservoir Dogs. We've not done Hateful Eight. Jackie Brown. So I think this will probably be the 4th Quentin Tarantino film we've covered. But usually, generally speaking, rule number 1 of the movies we cover is that the hero always plays by their own rules. Who's the hero of this movie, really?
I think we got 2 heroes. The obvious pick is Aldo Raine, who establishes his rules up front in his first scene.
Right.
And then the other one's Shosanna.
Right, yeah, Melanie Laurent, who's an incredible classical pianist. Did you know this?
I did not know that.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
I listen to, Spotify has those mixes they make.
Right.
One of them is Peaceful Piano that I found at one point. It's like
her
50 tracks that are just like amazing, and one of them is her.
Wow. So she's a great actress and pianist.
Yeah, she's like, I've listened her track. I always notice her face. I'm like, I forgot that it was the same girl.
Right, it's the same girl, but the thing with her, she does play by her own rules.
Yeah.
Later in the movie, and I think at the heart of this movie, she is the main hero.
Yeah.
From a certain point of view, obviously. I mean, the movie intends her to be, but I think it's Aldo Raine and her. Those are the 2 main heroes in the story.
Yeah, with his movies, it's rarely do you have one character that the movie's about, because it's always kind of ensemble. So generally speaking, it's like a duo. Rule number 2: the hero and the villain are always the smartest people, beings, things, dinosaurs in the room. And if you say that the villain is Christoph Waltz, so I think he feels like he's the antagonist. I mean, even though Hitler is truly the villain, and the Nazi Party is truly the villain, but like I think as a character, he's the villain.
It's Hans Landa, yeah.
And he and Aldo are the smartest guys in the room. So from an action movie perspective, that works really well.
Right. It's him and Aldo, and their scenes together are dynamite. And
Yeah.
I mean, Hans Landa, in my opinion, might be like one of Quentin Tarantino's best characters. It's
Right.
just so well written.
Well, more on that to come. So
More on that
let's-
to come.
Yeah.
Teasing.
Rule number 3: the movie is driven by police, military, political, or mercenary figure. And yes, the answer is yes. It is driven by the Bastards. They are military. And then finally, rule number 4: the movie contains a minimum of 1 explosion. Well, there's a burning movie theater. Plus,
That explodes.
yeah,
At the very end.
and Hitler's head explodes.
It does explode. It gets pretty shot up.
Yeah, kind of crazy they show that shot. I want to talk about that. There's a lot to talk about today, guys. So those are the rules of Inglourious Basterds here on Action Movie Anatomy. Quick Patreon shout out. We have some new patrons in the army: Tim Allensworth and Kyle Coppen, maybe. We salute you. There you go. All right, guys, coming up today on the show, we're going to be talking about career-defining role, Brad Pitt. We're going to be talking about all of our favorite segments, thesis statement, fist pump moment, all the fun things there. Today on the Action Guys, I'm going over to the other studio that Action has a brand to record an episode with Jeff Snyder.
Ooh.
We're going to be doing an episode of it's going to be Quentin Tarantino versus Paul Thomas Anderson, who's got the greater career. So that should be a really fun conversation. So be sure to tune in for that. We got that coming up this week as well. Over on the Action Industries YouTube channel, you can get the full video there. So like, subscribe, comment, and subscribe, comment here on the Popcorn Talk Network. Leave your thoughts below. Be sure to give us that little that notification bell so you guys know when we go live.
Yes, please do that.
Now, if you want to follow along with Ryan.
Yes, I'm at Ryan Nilsen _ because at Ryan Nilsen is taken by a pastor in Maine, but I'm trying to get it back. He hasn't tweeted in 4 years. But so at Ryan Nilsen, NILSEN _
Guy sounds like a jerk.
Yeah, he sounds like a jerk, but he does have a website that's Saving Pastor Ryan.
Oh.
So that's a pretty cool,
Okay. Yeah.
cool title.
Yeah. Maybe he's not a jerk. He just has your Twitter handle. My Twitter handle used to be Ben _ Bateman years ago.
Now everyone smirks at the underscore.
Yeah, when I started on Twitter, like before I really used Twitter, it was Ben _ Bateman. And then there was this girl I was dating named I'll tell it. Her name was Kelsey Dara. I don't know if any of you guys remember these videos. They used to the shit girlfriends say, shit girls say, those videos on YouTube.
No.
From like 5-7 years ago, something like that. They were like these comedy videos. They got really, really popular. And I was dating this girl for a short while, and she was pretty famous at the time because she was doing a lot of that stuff, and she shows coming up and stuff. And I remember, oh no, wait, yeah, that's her. Yeah, Kelsey. I think this video did pretty well, right?
Wow.
How many views are on this?
Yeah, it looks like a lot.
11 million,
Yeah.
11 million on this guy.
These got really popular.
Jeff
So-
in the booth,
yeah,
by the way.
Yeah, Jeffrey Crane Graham. So years ago, I mean, this is a long time ago, I think at least 6 years ago. So long story short, though, she had like a pretty big following. She was like, you got to get rid of that underscore. It's not a good.
So I need to get rid of that. Help
You
me
got to
get
come
rid
up
of
with
that,
something
guys.
better. And so I changed it to Ben Bateman Media, and I've been Ben Bateman Media across all platforms. You can kill the video, Jeff.
Yeah.
Just put Kelsey on blast. Though I did a few years ago back go on. She had a show she was doing for Watchable.
Oh, really?
And she was interviewing her ex-boyfriends, and she brought me in and interviewed me for it.
Wow.
So I know she put me on blast at one point.
Check out the
already.
video,
So-
guys. Watchable.
So, it's showing on the episode. That's pretty funny.
There we go.
Look at that. I just thought he was showing it for us to see. I didn't realize. Now the
You never know
audience.
with Jeff. You never know.
All right, guys. So that was a non sequitur. You guys can find me at Ben Bateman Media, as I mentioned, if you want to find me any of the places. The Action brand is available at Action Industries on Instagram, Team Action Show on Twitter, and check out the YouTube. And I mentioned Patreon. We'll get more to that later. So let's get into our first segment of the show, Thesis Statement. This is your biggest, boldest thought about the film. Something happens, you kind of look around, you're like, are you seeing this right now? This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. You gotta watch this. You get so excited, you want to call your buddy. And I'm going to jump in first because you kind of led in with what you just said a second ago. And I'm just going to say it outright. Hans Landa is the greatest character ever in a Quentin Tarantino film.
That's a bold statement.
I think it's true. He basically won 2 Oscars for it, right?
Yeah.
He pretty much played the same character again 3 years later.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
just won another Oscar. Like, he's so good. Because my other thesis in this was thinking, like, the first 15 minutes of this film might be the best 15 minutes in a Quentin Tarantino movie. I don't know if that's necessarily true because there's some pretty unbelievable scenes.
It's a classic scene. That everything about that scene, if you analyze it,
Yeah.
every beat, every moment, it's just adding to those characters. I think Quentin even described it as, the amount of tension in that scene. It's Hitchcockian.
Right.
It's really fascinating to see it, and it's like an elastic band that you keep stretching, and that's why the scene's so long, is because it can get so intense. If it was shorter, it doesn't get as intense. And then even after he figures out that they're under the floorboards, you're just starting to realize, okay, well, what's this going to mean for them under there? Are they all going to escape? And a Quentin Tarantino movie, he's also playing his strengths. We know how violent they can get.
Yeah.
So just seeing that, the amount of fear that's in you as an audience member watching it and a viewer, it's just building up. You don't know what's going to happen. It's a great scene.
It's a horrific scene. Yeah, it's crazy. It's so well acted. It's so well written. He's such an engaging character on so many levels. But because I think that Ezekiel 25:17 is probably the most iconic Quentin Tarantino scene ever.
Which one? Because my favorite Quentin Tarantino scene is the final scene of Pulp Fiction in the diner.
Okay, because
he
badass
says it again
motherfucker.
there.
Yeah. I think the original Big Kahuna Burger scene when he, I think that's probably in any Quentin Tarantino movie the one that feels like it's
probably the most iconic.
Like the shot of Sam Jackson turning that slow pan where you see his eyes, I think is maybe the most iconic shot he's ever had in a movie before. It's the one that comes to mind for me the most when I think of like a Quentin Tarantino scene.
That is a QT moment. Right there.
And you see like the two of them with the guns and like that quick pan back and forth.
Right.
But I mean, this scene is right up there. So
it is right up there. I think there's one more scene in this movie that I put just an inch above it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the bar scene. But yeah, I mean, what a way to start a film.
Yeah.
And he's known for just incredible opening sequences. I think just this is iconic. And like I brought this book. I went to film school, and the cover of the film book is Hans Landa at the end of that scene aiming the gun at Shosanna while she's running away. This is the screenwriting book we took, alternative screenwriting, and it is just so well written. Every moment you can just see he's a detective. Hans Landa he's almost not all Nazi. You think he has alternative motives. He's just this kind of crazy guy that was hired by the Nazis, and now he's even like a weirder, more crazier force of nature.
Yeah, his story and his arc in this movie is pretty satisfying, the way that it ends. It's pretty wonderful, and it makes his character all the more fascinating to know that in the end. But yes, I think my thesis statement is that he's the greatest character, because the only other characters that I would think of in a Quentin Tarantino movie that would really be on the level is like, doesn't feel like there's anybody in Pulp Fiction that is such a memorable single character that they stand above all the rest. Like, there are some great characters. I mean, Mia Wallace is amazing.
Absolutely.
And Jules is incredible. Vincent, like a lot of the characters in that movie. Then you skip Jackie Brown. The Bride would be very close. She's a great character.
Hans Landa is so layered, so complicated, though.
And Calvin Candy is a really good character.
He is. I think he's a little more maniacal, and there's not as much underneath as there is for Hans Landa. And so that's why I think that's a great thesis statement.
It feels correct. It feels correct.
My thesis statement.
I'm sorry, Ryan. Just before we dive into your thesis statement, I found a little bit of Tarantino on Landa. He agrees that Landa might be his greatest character ever written.
Wow.
He's on record saying that. And interestingly, he originally wanted Leo to play it, but then he realized he wanted either German or Austrian to actually play the part. Of Christoph Waltz, he says that Waltz gave him the movie back.
Wow.
Because he knew the movie couldn't be made without Landa, but he also feared the part was unplayable until he met Waltz. So pretty interesting to hear Tarantino speak on that.
Very interesting. And I think, obviously they weren't going to make the movie at one point because they couldn't find someone to play that character. And after his audition, he just knocked it out of the park. And they said, all right, let's go. Let's get filming. Yeah, I mean, that's a great thesis statement. My thesis statement is, now I am a major fan of this movie. This is like a top 50 favorite of mine.
Yeah.
Again, visit every year. So yeah, I think this is both Quentin Tarantino's most impressive film he's ever made, and I also think it's a top 3 movie of the decade of the 2000s.
Really?
That's my thesis statement.
Top 3 of the decade.
Top 3 of the decade.
That's a heavy statement.
The amount of craftsmanship that's on display in this movie is undeniable. Now, I mean, Pulp Fiction is going to be his most well-known. That probably defined his career, but I think this is his most well-made movie, and I think that this movie, for that decade of the 2000s, there's just so much on display. And I mean, I mentioned Hitchcock earlier. Yeah. There's that on display. There's the action in this movie is, I think, some of the most honed in action. Yeah. It's incredible in Kill Bill, but it can just get a little, all over the place at some points. I think he even had to tone it down. I think this movie has such a great vision. It's so peculiar and different from his other movies. Yeah. So that's my thesis.
Wow, very good thesis. That's bold. I mean, I was already just counting in my head movies from the 2000s that I could throw ahead of it. But
that year, I mean, I'm surprised it didn't get Best Picture. I know it lost to, I think, was it
2009?
Slumdog?
No, it lost to Hurt Locker.
I've watched this movie way more than I've watched Hurt Locker.
Hurt Locker's great. I mean, this movie is more memorable. This movie doesn't lag. Hurt Locker lags in the last 30 minutes, I think. This movie is better.
I will say, I think for people who watch this the first time, it's hard. I mean, I personally loved it the first time I saw it, but a lot of my friends, even my best friend from high school, introduced me to Quentin Tarantino. He said he couldn't really get through the first time, and then upon rewatch, he really fell in love with it.
Because he found it hard to watch because it's upsetting, or because he felt it was slow?
I think you weren't used to the pacing of the movie. You didn't know the whole story, because upon rewatch, you know where it's going, so you can pay attention to more finer details.
That's so interesting, because I find, like, I found this to be so compelling this time, in a way that I tried. So I have this project that I'm doing called 100 Movies I Missed.
Right.
And I've talked about it on here a bunch of times. So just in case you guys are hearing for the first time, I basically took a poll online, a combination of that, Schmodown movies, other stuff. 100 movies that I felt like I needed to watch that I've never watched before for one reason or another. So it could be like anything from like E.T., which I had never seen before, all the way to like the only Tarantino movie I'd never watched was The Hateful Eight. So I wrote that down. Black Hat, that terrible Chris Hemsworth movie, the only Michael Mann movie I'd never watched, like stuff like that I wanted to make sure I covered. And I got 32 movies into the project, and movie 33, like over a month ago, was supposed to be The Hateful Eight. And I tried 3 different times to watch it. I got 20 minutes in, then I watched 20 more minutes, then I watched 40 minutes, and eventually just turned it off. And I haven't gone back to the project because I'm so frustrated with the fact that I can't get through Hateful Eight because I hate it so much.
You hate it.
I can't stand it.
His pacing it definitely takes time to get used to. I think he is someone you have to see in theaters.
Dude, I've seen every Tarantino movie, and some of the old ones I've seen like 5 or 6 times.
Right.
Like I mean, I know the movie's like the back of my hand, and this movie, the combination of like Kurt Russell dropping the N-bomb every 4 sentences, mixed with like beating on a woman, mixed with the fact that it's just like all the same actors playing the exact same character. They all feel like the same character.
It's a tough watch.
And they're the same actors you've seen in every Tarantino movie. So like eventually I will get through the movie, and
I think I was speaking more for non-film lovers.
Yeah.
Like if my parents watch this, unless I was forcing them to watch it, it might be hard to get through. You might change the channel if you're watching this on cable. If there's a commercial break, you might flip it to a sports or something like that. I think if you're not a massive film lover, it's a hard watch the first time just because you don't know the entire story. Similar to Pulp Fiction, if you don't know the entire film, there are some slow moments in Pulp Fiction. The dialogue's incredible, but he really likes to just space it out.
Yeah, he really likes to take his time, and that's one of the hallmarks of Tarantino. And so, once you get on board and you're there for it, like I have promised myself that I will finish that movie. Yeah, so eventually I will write a Twitter review of that film. But for now, we're here to talk about this movie, not that movie.
Yes.
I think it's a terrific thesis statement. It's bold.
Thank you.
You did what many people on the show don't do.
Have to be bold.
Yeah.
Have to go for it. And I love this movie. I think you get more out of it each time you watch it.
So I think we should go into the next part of the show, which is fist pump moment.
Fist pump moment.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Wait a minute. Did I introduce thesis statement with the fist pump moment description? I feel like I did. Because I've already introduced fist pump moment on the show. This is the part of the movie that you watch. Yes, right. I totally did.
Yeah, you did.
Oh my God. Guys,
we're doing it now.
I am mixed up right now. Somebody is totally going to point it out in the chat right now. I absolutely introduced thesis statement as fist bump. Thesis statement is supposed to be the biggest, boldest thought about the film. Should be rooted in hyperbole.
Right.
The biggest this, the only this, the first, the last. Not something about favorite. Top 3 movie of the 2000s. Perfect.
Top 3 movie of the 2000s.
Greatest Quentin character.
Yeah.
Exactly what you want. Not the most exciting part, which is what we're about to do. The most exciting part of the film is the fist pump moment. Something happens, you kind of look around, you're like, yes! I get to watch the rest of this movie. 2 fist pump moment introductions. Yes, I did. People are calling me out.
Right.
Fist pump moment. I'm going to let you go first on this one.
Okay, Jeff, I have a soundbite from, I think it's all the way to the left.
Every man under my command owes me 100 Nazi scalps, and I want my scalps.
And it pans in on him.
Will get me 100 Nazi scalps, taken from the heads of 100 dead Nazis, or you will die trying.
Or you will die trying.
It's pretty terrific.
That is the moment. That opening scene's incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It almost could stand as a short film.
Right.
And I think it's a bummer though once it ends. You're like, wow, okay, but she got away. I hope she's all right.
Right.
And then hard cut to a 10 hut, and it's one of the most badass monologues Quentin Tarantino's ever written, probably since Pulp Fiction with his Eagle 2517.
Yeah.
This monologue is everything, man.
Yeah.
And after it ends, I am fist pumping everyone in the theater because they are about to get 100 Nazi scalps.
Because you're just in.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Well, he does such an interesting job. I think when we covered Django, we had Brianne Chandler on for that like a year ago, probably.
Oh, cool.
And I remember talking about that, like the combination of this movie into Django, he was focusing so much on like the most horrible types of humans in the world, right?
Right. And revenge films.
Yeah, you're focusing on Nazis and you're focusing on like slave-owning racists. And so the idea that you could have the most brutally violent revenge movie where like you are seeing the victim kill those people,
right,
is like this weirdly satisfying fist pump for violence because you're like, of course.
It's crazy because there's even a movie in Inglourious Basterds that's what's it, Nation's Pride.
Yeah.
And you know, it's propaganda,
right?
And you're thinking like it's horrifying for us to watch Nazis enjoy that, but in a way, this movie is sort of that for Americans.
I know, it's for Americans
or for the Jewish people, and it's a fist bump moment. Brad Pitt's about to go scalp Nazis.
I had forgotten that Daniel Bruhl played Frederick Zoller.
Yeah, that's where he made his career.
Yeah, that's his introduction. And then of course he goes on to be in Rush, which I love him in Rush, and Baron Zemo as well.
Great in Rush.
But I think that's terrific. That's a great fist pump moment. I think my fist pump moment probably, because it's not, I mean, it is kind of the opening scene, like, but it's like not a fist pump moment. It's just your jaw kind of drops and they just start shooting the floor.
That's the moment?
No, I was gonna say, I was thinking because that's such a terrifying, like, the way the moments that are setting up just before that, and you're like, oh, they don't understand the length. It's like crazy. But I think my fist bump moment actually is when they're sitting there having, they're sitting there like, and they pick up Shosanna and she comes and she's introduced.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, I'd like you to meet Hans Landa. And it pans up and you see him, and then it connects the dots that you're like,
and the music cuts in, flashback to Au revoir, Shosanna, and then hard cut back.
I think that's the moment for me, because for me that moment is a fist pump of like, I know where this is going, like showdown. Like, there's no way in this movie she's gonna lose, and it seems like right now in this movie there's no way he's gonna lose. Like, so this is gonna be great. Like, this is just what I want to watch. How is this gonna work? He's gonna interrogate her. She's gonna be able to fool him. She's got to hatch a plan. Like, you're just in. You're totally in.
And it's the first moment you see Hans Landa sort of being outplayed in a way. He doesn't realize who she is. He hasn't put together.
Never saw her face.
A guy that's so intelligent up until this point. He's the smartest character in the movie, hands down. He's a detective. He knows everything. He doesn't know who she is.
Yeah. Ooh. I think that's got to be my fist pump.
That's a good fist pump. And then he eats like some crepes or like a cake or something.
It's like this weird like homemade whipped cream on like a strudel or something.
Is that what it is? He's just enjoying it, and then he dubs his cigarette in it at the end of the scene. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Such a great character. That's a good fist bump moment.
Yeah. Let's read some of these. AJ Lancaster, General Lancaster. Mine's got to be Hugo Stiglitz backstory. Yeah, it's really good. He kills a lot of Nazis. Let's see what else we got here. Anybody else? Fist pump. Yeah. Jarvie, fist pump. Pretty much any Landa moment, but one I laughed hard at today was when Landa orders milk for Shosanna. I think he already knows it's her then, but he's still playing along.
He orders milk because in the opening scene, he's like, can I have some of your... He offers him wine.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, you're a farmer. I'll have some of your finest milk, which is in an odd way.
Yeah.
Like, it emasculates him a little bit.
Yeah, right.
And then when he orders milk for her, she even does like a look to the camera like, okay.
Yeah, right.
It's great. Oh, that's an awesome moment, too.
Yeah. Let's see. Anybody else on here with a fist pump moment? Andrew Fudge, my fist pump moment. When the beer comes and when the bear club comes and clubs the Nazi to death. And the last part of that movie when they're at the theater. Yeah, I mean, because Eli Roth is the bear Jew, right?
The bear Jew, Eli Roth from Boston.
Yeah.
Just going all out with the Boston accent.
Going all out with the accent. Yeah, Eli Roth, who at this time had already made Hostel, but but Quentin Tarantino, I think, had produced Hostel, if I remember correctly.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty good in it. I thought he crushed it.
Yeah, he's good.
Death Proof.
Yeah,
Donnie. The other connection.
Donnie Donowitz.
Yes.
So, guys, those are our fist pump moments for Inglourious Basterds. We're going to continue moving through the show here. Let's get into star profile. So, there's a lot of stars here. Now, I didn't list either Hans Landa, Christoph Waltz, and I also did not list Melanie Laurent because neither was known in America at this time, nor Daniel Bruhl. Well, he is listed here, but he's not. Like, I've never seen any of these movies. Have you? The Countess, City of War, The Story of John Rabe,
no.
And Karabat, The Legend of Satanic Mill. So really, it comes down to Brad Pitt, who was a star, and he's the star of the movie. That's how this movie really works and gets made. Is you have Brad Pitt. That's how they're going to sell it.
Yeah, he's great in it.
And you have Michael Fassbender, who at this time was up and coming.
This was, I think, something that sort of announced him. And
Yeah.
he steals the whole middle of the movie.
Yeah.
He's brought in as a film critic.
Yeah.
Who is now a corporal.
Yeah.
And yeah, that whole middle section, he has to carry it.
Yeah,
It's pretty interesting.
Archie Hickox. Yeah, so he had a part in 300, which I think is 2006.
Right? Good abs.
Yep, Hunger, which I've never watched before. Eden Lake and
Hunger's
Fish Tank.
nuts.
Yeah, people like Hunger, right? It's the
it's
Steve
great.
McQueen movie that he made before.
Hunger Strike movie.
Yeah.
Almost the whole thing's in one take.
Yeah.
It's great.
And then, of course, he makes this film in 2009, and then his career really does take off from here.
Magneto.
Yeah, exactly. Because First Class is in 2011. I think we can all agree Fassbender is one of the preeminent talents working right now. He's pretty much just amazing in everything he's in. But the three movies that Brad Pitt had made prior to this, I think this is where you really get into the interesting part of one of these guys' careers, is he makes The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford in 2007, which he's not in a whole lot of.
No, he's not really into that much, but it's a Western. He's now doing more genre films. Before that, I don't know if he was necessarily doing specific genres.
Yeah, Burn After Reading 2008 and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button 2008. So if you go back to Brad Pitt's career, the guy comes out in Thelma and Louise. It's 91. That's where he gets announced to the world. You know, by 1995, he's made 7. 4 years later, he makes Fight Club. In the course of all this, he's making Meet Joe Black and all these other movies. You get into the early part of the 2000s, and it's the Ocean's 11 movie. He marries Angelina Jolie. There's Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Troy. I mean, the mid 2000s is huge for
Snatch.
him. Yeah, but where you get into the really big part of his career, and why I say this is his peak, is because this is where he's not just like Mr. and Mrs. Smith is like, I'm really famous. Troy is like, I'm really famous. These movies aren't very good. This is like, great. So I'll make The Assassination of Jesse James this really slow Western where I'm not even going to really be in it that much, but I'm really good in it. Then I'll make a movie with the Coen brothers after they just won Best Picture, and then I'll go ahead and make a movie with David Fincher. And it'll be this crazy movie where I'm like de-aging, going for an Oscar. It's like Oscar nom.
Really interesting projects.
Yeah, and then of course Inglourious. Like this is where he's making the biggest, most respected, sought after films in his career. And so I think it's easy to say this is his peak because all the expectations on a Brad Pitt movie at this point were like, you're going to be making something that I'll care about.
Absolutely. I think that's fair to say this is his peak. I think you just said it. Leading up to this, he's now at a star power where he can really pick any of his projects.
Yep.
And I mean, he already worked with Fincher twice, so doing Curious Case is awesome. And I mean, Burn After Reading, Coen brothers. I mean, that's the genre filmmaker similar to Tarantino. So I bet he was just aching to work with Tarantino.
And they had literally won the Oscar for No Country for Old Men the year before that came out. So I think that's really the peak of his career. And where he goes from this, he makes the smart move that a lot of these guys make. He starts producing.
Right.
And I think he at this point had already been doing it. But the movies he starts producing, I think 12 Years a Slave is him. And that's
he produced that, got an Oscar for it.
2013, Big Short 2015. So, you know, he's in Moneyball in 2011.
I might be wrong. I think he produced Moonlight too.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's on top of the producing.
Yeah, he's had a really good run. So that's where these guys' careers are. Now, the real question, though, in that conversation about Brad Pitt is, what is Brad Pitt's career-defining role? Does he have one? And this is another one I would love to know Jeff Graham, producer up in the booth, what he thinks as well, because...
It's hard for me to not say Fight Club, just because I feel like, even though that's not his best film, and it is a great film, I mean, you know I love Fincher, Social Network's maybe my favorite movie, but there's just the iconography of the imagery in Fight Club, specifically around Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
I mean, like, when people cite abs, I feel like it's that role.
It's Brad Pitt in Fight Club.
Yeah, so for me, even though it's not his best film, that's his most iconic role, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good argument. I think if you're going to talk about the defining role of a generation, it feels like it's Tyler Durden in terms of cool factor. I don't know if there's a cooler character that happened in that decade.
Probably not.
On the other hand, I think Fight Club has, weirdly enough, Fight Club has aged out.
I completely agree.
Nobody talks about it. It doesn't come up anymore. The images aren't really that relevant anymore, and it doesn't have any franchise significance in the way where like The Matrix is getting rebooted. So like Keanu's really famous again. Like Neo is a character people talk about. People don't really talk about Tyler Durden anymore.
I think when everyone's talking about Fight Club, it's more about Fincher. I think that movie really showed how the scale of which Fincher can do as a director. I mean, there's so many shots in that movie. It's so well edited, so precise that, in particular, I think that's kind of what's standing the test of time, is just talking about how Fincher made it. I also think that was a really big deal for Edward Norton too. I mean, his performance is incredible in that. And Brad Pitt, that's probably the first thing you think of.
Yeah.
But were you going to do what you think was his defining film or
No. I mean,
performance?
the career-defining role. I mean, I think where it starts is Fight Club. Like that's
Fight Club.
That's the first. I think you could try to make arguments for other characters, because the reason I brought it up for this episode, the reason I thought it was an interesting game to play, is because I started thinking, is it possible Aldo Raine actually is? Is it possible that this movie has lived on in a way where it's way more of a relevant movie to like movies now for whatever reason? Like people that were in this movie still working a lot. Christoph Waltz, still a pretty big name. Tarantino's still kind of at the top of his game.
Yeah.
Kind of the last really great like Brad Pitt vehicle we've had. Like it's kind of the last one where it was like, this is a Brad Pitt movie. I'm all in on Brad Pitt's great character and his great accent. Like Moneyball's 2 years later, but
Moneyball is really good.
It's a great movie.
Same with Fury. And Fury's a few years later, another World War II film.
Yeah.
Obviously inferior to this, but
Fury never comes up. People, that movie, that's like the...
it
That's
never
like,
talks.
I feel like I can't remember the last time Fury kept up in conversation. I think it probably is Tyler Durden, because I can't make a strong enough argument for Aldo. But it feels like there's a decent argument that they would be number 2, maybe.
I think he does a great job. I think Brad Pitt's at his best in one of these lead supporting roles.
Yeah.
Like he's incredible in the Ocean's films.
Yeah,
I think
great.
but that's Clooney's gig.
Yeah.
But he works so well in this movie. Same thing with like 12 Monkeys. Same thing with Seven.
Yeah.
Like he is just an amazing supporting actor in all those films because he uplifts the lead. Personally, my favorite performance of his might be in Seven, because we don't he after that he does all these crazy different roles. Even in Snatch, he does an awesome accent. He pulls it off.
Yeah.
But I think Seven, just that moment when he sees his
What's in the box,
spoilers,
yeah.
his wife had that. I mean, not many actors can really pull that off.
No, he's great. Guys in the chat here, do you have any opinions on the career-defining role for Brad Pitt? I think I would have to go with, in the end, Jeff's argument that it is Tyler Durden, but I was going to see if maybe you try to convince me that it was Aldo. Maybe
It's Fight Club.
I think it's
Fight Club.
I just think it has to be.
I think the thing is, it's Christoph Waltz's film. That's what everyone talked about after Inglourious Basterds. It's who's this guy?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you even said it's his best character Quentin Tarantino's written. That is my major takeaway. I actually think I'm surprised. The thing that's really impressive about Aldo Raine in this movie is that he's not in it a lot, but you feel like he's in the entire film.
Yeah, right. Well, he's
So-
just the biggest name. I mean, that's the thing, is that when you talk about star power,
Right.
that when you talk about star power, like you have Brad Pitt at this point in his career starring in your movie. That's why the movie gets made. Again, that's why they'll spend $70 million to make this movie. If you don't have Brad Pitt, if you make this movie and it's Edward Norton in 2009, it's not going to be the same thing.
Great point.
I do like your point, though, about Aldo not being in the film much, but still having such an effect. It's almost like the Anthony Hopkins and Hannibal Lecter effect, where just the presence of the performance is so pervasive that even a small amount of screen time makes such an impact.
And he's so confident in the role. Like he is chewing the scenery literally.
Yeah.
Like he has this underbite the entire film, and he has this accent. Like he's just going for it. I love it.
What's his character's name? Enzo. What's he say?
Oh, when he's pretending to be Italian.
Yeah.
He's a Gorlami.
Yeah, Gorlami.
Gorlami. Dominic DeCoco. Oh, it's so good.
All right, guys, we're gonna get into a little bit of the production development, how this movie got made. Now, do you know a lot about this? Have you done like a lot of research on this?
I did some research on it, and just the fact that, I mean, Quentin had been writing it for years.
Yeah.
And I think he even before the Kill Bill movies, he was at a bit of a stall because he didn't know how to end it. And then after that, he had put so much time and invested into it that he just felt like he had to have a great ending.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know casting information, even Sam Levine tells stories about how just rigorous that process is and how particular he was, because he felt like this was his masterpiece. He was so proud of what he had written. He really wanted to perfect it.
Yeah, it says he spent over a decade writing the film script because, as he told Charlie Rose in an interview, he became too precious about the page, meaning the story kept growing and expanding. He viewed the script as a masterpiece in the making, so he felt it became the best thing he had ever written. He wrote the script originally in 1998, but struggled with the ending and chose to instead direct the two-part film Kill Bill. After directing Death Proof in 2007, he returned to work on Inglourious Basterds, saying it's his favorite thing he's ever written, and also the fact that he will never explain what the spelling is about. It's his spelling.
Right, there's a U, an extra U in Inglourious, and then there's a E.
Yeah, Bastards or something like that. So talking about Tarantino and his career a little bit when this movie came out, this is a really fascinating part of his career, because you could say in some ways that the most iconic movie he ever made is, I mean, I think it's Pulp Fiction easily, but this is probably the second most iconic movie.
I think this is his most well-made movie. I think there's so much on display here, from suspense. The
Yeah.
amount of tension in that bar scene
Yeah.
is no other director could have done that. That is him.
Feels like it's basically Pulp Fiction, then this, then Kill Bill. And it's possibly Kill Bill's 2 just because the outfit is so memorable. But it's like those are the 3 movies that feel like they kind of define in the end what people remember about Quentin Tarantino's career.
Yeah, I might sub in Reservoir over Kill Bill, but yeah, I agree.
I like Reservoir more. It's probably my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. But Reservoir Dogs, when you talk about like Fight Club aging out, Reservoir Dogs has aged out hard. No,
It
that
has
movie
aged out.
Never comes up.
I just think, I think when you're talking about Quentin Tarantino as just a filmmaker in general, that's screenwriter and director, I think other directors could have directed Reservoir Dogs. I
Yeah.
think other directors maybe could have done Kill Bill, but this movie is just so particular. Pulp Fiction is so particular. Only he could have really directed that.
Yeah, they have his style all over them. And so, I mean, he had made Kill Bill Volume 2 back in, I think it's like 2000, 2000...
5, 6.
No, I think it's
4.
2004. Okay, yeah. It's like 03, 04 when those 2 movies come out. And then he does the Death Proof Planet Terror combo a couple years later, which is kind of the low point, it feels like.
That's his low point, easily. Death Proof's my least favorite of his films.
Yeah, and then he does this, and in 2009. So really, he hadn't had a hit movie in about 6 years by the time this came out.
Wow.
There's a lot of expectation. So I remember going to see this in theaters because I grew up with an older brother who absolutely adored Tarantino.
Oh, really?
Like in my house, we listened to the soundtrack to Pulp Fiction on road trips.
Oh,
and
nice.
My family was obsessed. So like all those early Tarantino movies prior to Kill Bill coming out, the first 3, Jackie Brown, Pulp Fiction, and Reservoir Dogs, they were on in my house all the time. So when I was a little kid, I just knew them like the back of my hand. And so, naturally you kind of absorb what you're raised with. So when Kill Bill came out, it wasn't really for me. I didn't like Kill Bill 1 and 2 very much. They were all right, but they just the like sword fighting stuff. It just was a different thing. It wasn't the crime stuff from those first 3. It was
sound effects.
different world.
It's a little more over the top than anything he's done.
It was campier.
Very campy.
I ended up buying it a little more to Volume 2 because it's more dialogue heavy. But even then, I wasn't that excited about it. So then when Death Proof Planet Terror came out, I watched those and I was like, yeah, this guy's kind of lost it. He's not really my guy that I thought I grew up with. So then, of course, this movie comes out. I see it in theaters with pretty low expectations. I thought it was good, but I didn't care that much. When I've gone back to rewatch it now for this show, I was blown away by how good it was. It was really compelling.
That's the thing. It ages. It ages like wine. It just gets better and better each time you watch it. I think so. Oddly enough, I watched it for the first time with my younger brother.
Okay.
And my best friend from high school, Christian, had showed me Pulp Fiction. He introduced me to Tarantino, and that's when I was just getting into film. And I watched Inglourious Basterds, not knowing it was one of his movies, and just loved it. Just fell in love with it. Was so captivated by it. Thought it was really interesting and just intriguing. The fact that he would change history. It was such a departure from what he had done because a lot of his films took place sort of modern day, but this was a World War II film.
Yeah. Yeah, it is fully a World War II film. And when I think about it, it's almost like in my memory, it doesn't feel as much like that, but that is the setting,
Right.
obviously. It's just like so, the characters all feel kind of larger than life. So,
Great setting.
yeah, so this movie, comes out in 2009. It's made for $70 million by the Weinstein Company at the time when the name was still, clean.
Yikes.
And it comes out August 21st, 2009. I moved to Los Angeles on August 3rd, 2009. So
Really?
this was the first movie in a theater that I saw when I moved here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a great movie to see. And now he's got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I taped my next Schmodown match on August 3rd,
Okay.
which is the 10-year anniversary of my move to Los Angeles.
No way.
Yeah, it'll be 10 years August 3rd.
Would you look at that? That is
wow.
crazy. Yeah, I mean, the production history, I don't think, in my opinion, if I wasn't really paying attention when it came out, but I'd seen like the poster. It never really intrigued me like that. It's just his posters are usually awesome, but it's a little bit of an odd poster. Just such a departure from his other work that I feel like the expectation going in, it's really Brad Pitt. That was the main selling point.
He needed Brad Pitt to make this movie. He absolutely needed that. So, he makes it for $70 million. It makes $120.6 million domestically, another $200.9 foreign, for a total gross of $321.5 million.
Triple.
That's great. It opens number 1 for $38 million, proving that both Brad Pitt and Quentin Tarantino's names still play. Critical on this movie, it has an 8.3 on IMDb. The all critics give it an 88. So do the top critics. All pretty great across the board as far as the ratings on this movie go. Very, very well received. So feels like from this moment forward, you kind of had the next part of his career. Like I almost mark Inglourious Basterds as part 2 of Quentin Tarantino's career. Feels like everything from Reservoir Dogs through Death Proof is like phase 1.
Right. I think it's odd because I feel like Kill Bill, Inglourious, and Django all have a similar theme of revenge.
Yeah.
So, but I think in terms of his craftsmanship, in terms of the level of the types of stories he's trying to tell, I think this is a good part 2 marker because, I mean, the film Django Unchained is very similar to this.
Yeah.
It's more specific with the characters and who's getting revenge and who's taking it back. But yeah, this is a good part 2. I think he had a bit of a Western phase, and now he's going out of that into something a little more.
It feels to me like, and I go to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood tonight, so I haven't seen it yet.
So
But
jealous. Jeff's wife saw it.
yeah, I'm so excited to see it. It feels like, and again, not to harp on it, but this is the first Tarantino movie to come out since the Weinstein stuff happened.
Oh,
And
interesting point.
He was so closely associated with the Weinstein Company for such a long time.
Right.
It's also not a film that's a period piece as much. Like, it is obviously based in the 60s, but it's not like Civil War era or, you know what I'm saying?
Right. It's not. I don't think it's heavily relying on
It's
that.
not World War II.
I will say though, my wife's early review is that like the historical interest is very heavily ingratiated in the film. Like
Interesting.
Like I think, well, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but I know from like a set design perspective, it is a very historically contextual film.
Interesting.
Yeah.
He's so detailed in all of his films, especially in Inglourious Basterds and Django, that it has to be historically accurate. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think even in Hateful Eight, you haven't watched it yet, but there's a guitar that gets smashed that was tens of thousands of dollars because it was the real thing and
Wow.
it didn't mean to get smashed. And so yeah, he's very, very particular.
Very
with a lot of
particular.
that.
Yeah, I think this feels like it's kicking off the next part of his career, and most interestingly, this movie marked his return to critical significance because Pulp Fiction had been nominated for 3 acting nominations in that film, as well as Best Original Screenplay, which he wins for writing it. I'm pretty certain.
Yes, and he won, and he also won for Django.
Yeah, those are the 2. And the film was obviously nominated for Best Picture. But after that film, he doesn't really get much in the way of critical recognition for a very long time. This kicked off Hollywood was ready to sort of welcome him back and be like, okay, you're making movies that we're supposed to care about again.
Oh, yeah.
Because this film and Django both were nominated for a lot of awards. Even Hateful Eight was nominated for 1 acting Oscar.
Yeah, and I think score. I think he even won for score.
He did.
But this is a comeback film, I think, for him. I think because Death Proof, I'm just gonna say it. I think it's bad. I'm not about it. I really don't. I don't enjoy it. I think I've watched it once, and it was kind of an odd watch. There's just not much to latch onto there, especially character-wise, because he's so great with his writing. I mean, this movie is so well written. He teases little character pieces just through subtle dialogue. You don't even notice the development.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, we're going to get into favorite line here, next part of the show, and then we have an AMA question to answer from Matt Nikisic, so stay tuned for that, guys. Do you want to jump in first with your favorite line?
Yes, Jeff, I think I also have that on there real quick.
Well, I just reject your hypotheses.
That was what Quentin Tarantino said in the interview.
Oh, the interview.
It's the other one. I think it's second from the left.
Ooh, that's a bingo. Is that the way you say it? That's a bingo? You just say bingo.
Yeah, it was the bingo. I think that's a bingo, and I have another favorite line. Am I allowed to say 2?
Yeah, please.
I'll say Auf Wiedersehen to your Nazi balls.
When does that happen?
Oh my gosh.
It's in the bar scene.
The bar scene?
Yeah.
Hear the start of a gunshot in there. The bar scene is so intense. And I mean, 2/3 of this movie is not in English.
Yeah.
So you're reading it and you're so captivated by what's going on. So at the end, when they do switch to English, he says, I'm going to go out speaking the Kings. And then he just says Stiglitz and he goes, say Auf Wiedersehen to your Nazi balls. Pulls the trigger. What a badass line. It's
pretty awesome.
Oh my gosh.
That scene is pretty incredible in general. I think my favorite line is, you actually alluded to it earlier when he's talking about, he sits down in the initial scene and he says, can I get you wine? And he says, no, you are a dairy farmer. Is it safe to assume that you have milk?
That's your favorite line? Wow.
Well, because I love, there's this way that Hans addresses people throughout the whole film where he's like incredibly polite.
So polite.
But it's like false. You know that it's actually, he is a polite person, but he's also doing it to like, it's a power dynamic he's trying to do. He's trying to get you to feel like, but you just be, and so I love, as you mentioned, it's like this emasculating line where he's sort of saying to him like, you're not, you're not going to get me drunk. B, you're a farmer. I'm here. I know who you are. You have no power here.
You know who I am.
Yeah,
You've heard of me.
And C, I'm not gonna take what you're offering me. I'm gonna tell you what I want. Give me the thing, like, you know what I mean? Like, let me judge you. How good's your milk?
And also, I mean, just the idea that he's asking for permission.
Yeah.
When he knows he doesn't need permission.
Yeah.
He's like, may I have another glass? I think when they're leaving.
May I have your permission because it is your house to change languages? I also think the other one is when he does change and he says it's safe to assume because I've heard no disturbances that they don't speak language, because you're like, oh my God, I know what's about to happen.
Thought of everything.
Those two moments in that scene for me are both ones where I was like, oh.
Those are incredible lines, and also that's a bingo. Hilarious.
Incredible.
You just say bingo.
So those are our favorite lines, guys. Question from Matt Nikisic. I'm just going to cue the chat up here. I like to keep reloading it. His question is there anyone else you can see playing the Hans Landa character? Waltz does an amazing job, especially in the opening scene, but is there an actor you think that can match the way he brings such a spooky, menacing mood to the role? I think Mads Mikkelsen would have been a good fit. It's a good suggestion, actually. Mads is a smart... That's a smart suggestion.
James Bond fame.
I don't know how many actors out there...
I couldn't see anyone. I even Mads Mikkelsen, I have to knock him down, not to throw shade, but I mean, Doctor Strange, like he just really pull off that villain. So if you can't really do that,
it's a question of accents.
It's more the writing. Yeah, the accents. I think this was Christoph Waltz's role. This was it. He was born to play this role.
I think the other actors I could see doing this, if you had given me 2009 Tom Wilkinson.
Okay.
I don't know how much faith I have necessarily in his ability to do the accent, but I love his presence. He's an incredible actor. I think Wilkinson could have been amazing. It's possible in 2009 Ben Kingsley could have pulled this off.
Ben Kingsley's a good pick. I think he might be a little old.
Yep.
For that one.
Agreed. And then the last would be Fassbender. I could have seen Fassbender in the role. Now, I don't think any of them probably do it as well.
Right.
But I think all three of those could have taken a crack at it, and I would have been impressed. Fassbender... Because Fassbender, like when he plays David in the Alien films, and he has that creepy, menacing, like where he's really nice,
right? Subtle.
I think he could do that kind of similar thing, and maybe that would work.
I think he could have. Maybe a little young, oddly enough, for the role. I think the Christoph Waltz was not only just a great pick because of his performance, but his age. He's at such a unique age where you can tell he's seen a lot.
Yep,
and he's kind of been through his better years. He's at his peak right now. Yeah. Whereas Fassbender, I still feel like was on the come up.
Ding Dong in the chat just suggested Ben Mendelsohn. That's a great suggestion.
Ooh.
And Daniel Day-Lewis suggests Jonathan Peck. I mean, it's hard to say Daniel Day-Lewis couldn't, because he could do anything.
Yeah, he could do anything.
But guys, we just have a couple minutes left here, so last couple things here to get through. Who would you have rather seen in the role of Hans Landa, Tom Cruise or Nick Cage?
I'd go Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Especially Collateral.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise. Oh my gosh.
Collateral era Cruise with the interrogation.
Definitely would have been a lot more action. I feel like the leap when he strangles her after he puts the shoe on would have been a lot more showy if it was Tom Cruise. Yeah, a lot more athletic.
Cage is in the interview. Since your house, is it safe to assume you have milk? Like, maybe, I don't know.
Your milk. Yeah, I don't. I think I would just get scared and a Cage drove up.
This milk is obviously rotten. All right, so there are 3 action movie categories, guys. Totally ridiculous, totally legitimate, and ridiculously legitimate. Now, this is a really interesting one because of the premise of the film, and especially the stuff towards the end of it. I think you would lean into totally legitimate because of the intensity of so much of the movie. However, I think it's also totally reasonable to make the argument that's ridiculously legitimate because it's such an absurd movie.
Very absurd in the end.
Yeah.
In terms of historically accurate, I think.
And also just like the way that it's like the close-up of Hitler's head getting shot up.
Oh, right.
And there's so much of it, like the bear Jew and scalping Nazis, like so much of it is so over the top.
Really over the top.
I think I'd go middle category on this movie. I don't think when I watch this movie you can do anything other than sort of like, it is a little ridiculous. It's not a bad way, so maybe that makes it because it's intentional. It's right on the line.
I think it can be a little. It's meta at the end. I alluded to it earlier, but I mean they're playing. There's a movie within the movie, and they're watching it, and it's a propaganda film.
Right.
In a way, you could, if you're in the theater watching Inglourious Basterds, we're in a similar situation as those Nazis watching Nation's Pride, and so I think that was him kind of winking at the audience, like, hey. It's not so ridiculous that they did this.
Yeah.
So
that's probably.
So I would actually go for legitimate though because I mean this movie, for as many differences they make historically, I just think there's so much underneath. It's so well written that I would go totally legitimate.
It's fair. It's a fair argument. Guys, only one last thing left to do on the show today, and that is called The Pitch. He didn't do the pitch with me.
Yeah, I didn't know if I was supposed to say it at the same time. The Pitch.
There you go. Next week, we are going to be reviewing the brand new Tarantino film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So a lot of this Who is Quentin Tarantino information will be repeated once again. Drew will be back from China. Super duper excited about doing that one. I get to go see it tonight, as I mentioned. I can't wait. A couple quick shout outs to the generals in the Action Army. We got Andrew Hayes, Paul Denuzio, Billy Belford. Oh, I just heard a... No worries.
That was Jeff's alarm clock.
Andrew Hayes, Paul Denuzio, Billy Belford, John Getz, John Patterson, Jake Iacovetta, Kyle Grandinetti, Jonathan Peck, Kelsey Kirkland, Mac Ryan, brand new generals in the Army, AJ Lancaster, and new this morning, Nick Gilmore.
Welcome.
Guys, we salute you. So a couple quick shout outs before we get out of here. Last thing, one more time, Ryan, if folks want to find you, where can they find you on the social?
At Ryan Nilsen _ NILSEN on Twitter and Instagram.
You guys can find me at Ben Bateman Media. You can find Team Action Show on Twitter, Action Industries everywhere else. Be sure to get your tickets now. Action Live, August 29th, New York Comedy Club in the East Village. Tickets are on sale right now at the New York Comedy Club website. Drew and I are going to be live doing a combination show, Action Movie Anatomy, The Action Guys, and some sort of schmodown talk in New York. We can't wait. Go get your tickets now. It's going to be an unbelievable show. And please check out patreon.com/teamaction if you guys want exclusive behind-the-scenes content every single week. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Popcorn Talk. We'll see you guys all next week.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit PopcornTalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.